All right, I think we're ready to go. What's up, y'all? This is Justin, and I'm here with my guest today. Well, not really a guest; it's more of an opponent because this is a debate. We're about to destroy each other here. So, this is well. Actually, I want to go ahead and let you introduce yourself so I don't screw anything up. So, take it away.
Yeah, I'm Brian Edward. I'm nobody famous or special, but I'm involved in the organizing team for Mythcon and Minds IRL.
All right, so uh, we got into a Twitter conversation a few days ago, and then we set up a debate to talk about Ben Shapiro's comments over the Democratic LGBT Town Hall. We had some disagreements on Twitter that we wanted to flesh out kind of today. Uh, so setting just some ground rules here. If I ever say anything that you think I'm taking someone out of context, or if I'm paraphrasing you in a way that you disagree with, let me know. Uh, Interrupt me as much as you want to, so we can make sure that we're going forward with the best good faith efforts that we both can. So is
Yeah,
that cool with you?
yeah, same.
Yeah. All right. So what we plan to do here is I'm going to kind of make my case of what I think Ben was doing, and then you can make your case of what you think Ben was doing, and something along those lines. And then we
Yeah,
actually we're going to go through the podcast at least up until the clip presented, and then we'll see from there. We might go through the entire thing, or we might have enough to discuss to fill up as much time as we need to, just in the first
yeah.
couple
And
of
if you want
minutes.
to skip right to the controversial part, because I mean that's what's created the controversy, at least on Twitter, and how we bumped into each other was I think the 2 minute controversial part.
Hmm. And if correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the issues that you had with kind of me and the people who were arguing, kind of on my side, was that you thought that we were taking Ben out of context with his remarks.
Yeah, I guess I didn't, or that it wasn't provided in the full context.
Right. Well, you can never. 2 minutes is never going to provide full context, right?
Yeah.
So I would make the case.
Or so it
Go
was
ahead.
either and again, I don't want to misrepresent like what you were trying to do. Obviously, some people try to smear Ben Shapiro or smear anyone online. I'm not going to say you were trying to do that. I just felt like, well, wait a minute. I don't think you were I felt like you weren't getting what he was trying to say, or that it had crossed the wires and been misinterpreted. That was my contention.
Oh yeah, my position is that not only did we put his comments into context, because I've watched the entire podcast through twice now.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, when you put his comments in context, because any 2 minute clip is going to be out of context. There's no way
Yeah,
to
that's fine.
do it. It actually makes him look worse. So, and
Okay,
I'm very happy to put him into context into what he was talking about. So, the
cool.
clip in question, and we will eventually get to it. We'll tell you when the clip was online, but I'm sure a lot of you in the chat have already seen the clip by now. Ben Shapiro basically says that if and again, correct me if I'm wrong in my characterization of this. If someone comes to his house and tries to take his kids away because they're truants, and he took them out of school, and if someone tries to take his kids away for truancy, he was going to meet them at the door with a gun. I know that's very heavily
Yeah,
paraphrased, but
that's essentially correct. Now, if but you have to grant a few things in his hypothetical. He said um, if the if all religious schools had been banned, and that homeschooling options have been banned, and then he said he has two options at that point: move out of the country or meet whoever comes to come get his kid at the door with a gun. Yeah.
yeah. And my contention is not with the hypothetical. It's that the lack of logic that it took to get from the comments he were responding to, because he was responding to Beto O'Rourke's comments. They
Yeah.
basically said that if an institution doesn't support same-sex marriage, that they should lose their tax exempt status.
Right.
So he went from that with very little in between steps to justifying using violence specifically against Beto O'Rourke. This wasn't in
No,
his
I don't think it was
hypothetical.
against Beto O'Rourke. It
Yeah,
was
it
against
was.
the person coming to the G man that's coming to get your kids.
I don't know if it was in that clip, but in the podcast itself, he said, "Beto, if you try to come and take my kids away, or something similar to that, I will meet you at the door with a gun." I actually wrote down the exact quote.
Okay,
Yeah.
then maybe I missed that. That could be true.
No, yeah, it could be. Yeah, so at 1948, Beto does not get to raise my child, and if he tries, I will meet him at the door with a gun. So he said that at 1948.
Okay,
So, tell you what, let's go
so
ahead.
yeah, if Beto decides to be the truant officer, okay, then yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so, uh, yeah, is there anything else you wanted to make sure that we were discussing
No,
right now?
that's correct. I think, and this is what he's saying. And ultimately, this is him defining the Second Amendment and where he draws the line on the Second Amendment. I mean, the Second Amendment isn't for self-defense. It's not to that you're a little guy and you've got a gun and you can defend yourself against a guy that's 275 pounds. And the amendment is if the government becomes tyrannical. Now, that's not well defined, and then everyone has to define it for themselves. So I thought this was an attempt of him defining where that Second Amendment kicks in for him as far as the government being tyrannical.
Yeah. So what counts as tyrannical to you?
Again, this is the weird thing, and this is where I can empathize with your point of view a little bit, because one person could define tyranny as, well, hell, you took my favorite cable station away or something, or you can't say the F word on TV or something, that's not tyranny. So he was defining it there.
Yeah, I think Ben Shapiro in the entire podcast, there were actually clips that I would have also used from that exact same podcast, was being enormously dishonest in his portrayal and framing of basically everyone he talked about in that LGBT town hall. In particular, those comments about meeting the door with a gun, those were completely unwarranted and could amount to some sort of stochastic terrorism, depending on how you define it.
Right. And this stochastic terrorism is, from what I understand, and maybe you can tell me better, is that basically you're raising the temperature. You're fear mongering in such a way that like certain amount of people are going to pop off and then do something weird, right?
Yeah, it's a hard word to spell. Yeah, so it's a process around. I'm cheating. I'm googling a random model of those terror attacks intended by the random nature of their timings to excite a generalized fear. So he's trying to excite people. Excite in the not
in the
rhetorical
sense, right? It's rhetorical language,
right?
Yeah, and to be fair, like he makes a big leap, and I think that you can say, yeah, that his rhetoric is harsh here. Now he feels scared, right? And but this is also true with everyone that talks about Trump going to usher in fascism, or Trump is the first step to a fascist USA. Isn't that the same large leap that Beto O'Rourke says, I want to get rid of tax exempt status for religious institutions, and all of a sudden he's, oh shit, the government's become tyrannical and is going to take my kid away. That's a big leap. I agree that Ben Shapiro's a big leap, but isn't it the same leap with Trump and fascism?
No. Because we can point to specific policies that Trump has implemented that are on the way here. We can point to specific things that are happening right now. Ben can point to a thing and then point to what he thinks is 20 steps down the road. He can't fill in the blanks. We can point to things that right now that could put us on the way towards fascism. Now, whether or not we ever get there, that's a story, but we can talk about policies right now that Trump has been implementing. Whereas Ben,
we would get off topic if we do it. But,
let's not do that. But for example, the example that Ben brings up in his podcast was Bob Jones University. He said that because Bob Jones University lost their tax exempt status because they didn't allow interracial dating, he used that as a defense of his point, which he should not have, because that proves our point. Bob Jones University is still around.
So what he's saying is, like, Ben says that it's okay for the government to move in on racial grounds, but not on belief grounds of LGBT.
Yeah, but what's the difference?
I don't know. I mean, again, that's Ben. I'm not here to defend Ben. Yeah. I was here to just kind of say that, again, at some point, you might have to defend yourself from government tyranny.
Yeah, of course you would have to defend yourself from government tyranny, but he's created this hypothetical that is not likely. He cannot form a logical train of thought that gets there.
Sure. I agree that there would be a whole lot of steps that are going to be needed to be there. But the one that he does make is that in SCOTUS, in Oberfeld versus whomever, this was the essentially what legalized gay marriage. The big thing was you couldn't for gay rights, and this is why I was supportive of this, and most people I knew were very supportive of this. The idea was you couldn't give if you had children with a gay. If you were married or living with some of your partner, you could, and you died, your kid might go into foster care. You couldn't immediately, like the other parent doesn't take over because you couldn't be legally married. Things like life insurance, house, naturally, the death tax may apply if you're going to give it to a friend because it's not your spouse. All of these things were argued very successfully that gay people were being infringed of unfairly, and they put it on the people that were defending traditional marriage, saying, well, what do you have? Like, what do traditional marriage people lose if we put this through? And they didn't have a lot of good arguments. The one thing they said were all these vague, unforeseen circumstances. And one of them that they pulled up was that eventually religious institutions might lose their 401c3 status or their tax-exempt status. That now that Beto proposes that, and obviously that's not law, but it kind of is. We'll see. Wait a minute. It actually gives a tiny bit of credibility back to the argument that the traditional marriage people were saying, because yeah, that could happen. And when the defense was like, no, that'll never happen, but now it's being proposed. So if you're on the right, you might see this as you're moving the goalpost. You said you weren't going to do this, and now you're doing that.
Yeah.
And then Beto's seen as the bad guy.
Yeah, he can be seen as the bad guy, but I would argue very much in favor of, when we say equal rights, that means equal rights. I'm not okay with just a little bit of discrimination. I don't think that that's unfair for me to, when I say I want to be treated like everyone else.
Yeah, you are. I mean, you discriminate on who you date. You might date some person, you don't date another person.
I'm pretty sure you knew what I meant by that, right? I don't want to be.
Yeah, but how is it like in marriage, right? If you say, look, could a priest who doesn't like a couple, let's say that the priest has some big problems with this couple, he doesn't like them, they're straight, and he doesn't want to marry them. Is his choice is he allowed to say, look, find another priest, I don't want to marry you?
Do you believe that we should have protected classes?
In secular law, yeah.
In secular law, yeah. So I don't know.
Like in positive law, for the U.S. government, if it was return hiring law and this and that. But if some religious sect that are crazy wants to go do what they want to do, I'll leave them be. I'm not pushing on the Amish to a job.
I know, and that's exactly what Beto's proposing. We're still going to leave them be. They're just not going to get benefits from it. They're going to have to pay taxes like everyone else.
Ben's contention is that, well, when you pull the tax-exempt status, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's you're doing something. That isn't tyranny, but you're doing something.
Making them pay taxes like everyone else.
Huh?
Making them pay taxes like everyone else. They're not being punished. They're just not getting a reward anymore. That's what's being proposed right now.
Right. Well, right. Now, you might have unforeseen, again, this gets off topic, you might have unforeseen circumstances on charities, and there's a lot of things like that. I don't know, I'm just not smart enough to know what the ramifications of doing this are. I haven't really thought that through, and I haven't looked at it. There's something in an article that I didn't get to read the other day that was talking about maybe we shouldn't do this because this would crush a lot of charities and a lot of good things. But again, I didn't get to read it.
Well, his example that he brought up, and I'll bring it up again, was Bob Jones University. Since that's the case that he brought up, I thought it would be a good one to illustrate his point,
Yeah.
but it didn't. So they lost their tax exempt status in, I believe, 1975, was it?
Something like that, yep.
Yeah. Well, first of all, he lied and said that the IRS didn't have any policy in place. No, they put a policy in place in 1970, several years before it happened. But their policy that they lost their tax exempt status for was they didn't allow interracial dating. They lost their tax exempt status in 1975. They kept that policy until the year 2000.
Okay.
And they were not tax exempt again until 2014. So they made it, what is that, almost 40 years?
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
But defend, like, let's say that you're going to be an attorney for Bob Jones University here. Defend no interracial dating on a religious ground. Like, they're supposedly Christian, right? Like,
right.
Where in Christianity does this law say that there's no interracial dating?
I guess that it's just kind of up to their interpretation of it, right?
Right, but it would be, you are going to have to do it. You can't just, you'd have to show a long-standing belief, right? I mean, this is one of the things you can't just say, well, I'm in a religion that does X, created 2 minutes ago to get around a statute. That doesn't work. You have to show a patterned history and that you believe in this. So you would have to show, at least scripturally, that there's no interracial dating. Right now, this might have been, I don't know if the Mormons would have been able to do this because, right, they didn't integrate for a long time. So maybe it was in Mormon scripture somewhere, but I don't know where it is. That would have been tough. You're going to have to make a religious argument. I mean, the LGBT thing, you have a clear religious argument. I'm not saying it's not discrimination. It is. I'm not saying I like the discrimination. I don't. But I'm just saying, if we're going to allow freedom of religion, we have to let it go.
No, we don't. Hold on, they can still discriminate against gay people if Beto's proposal went through, right? They can still discriminate against gay people.
Can they?
Yes, they just don't get tax exempt status from it. They don't get a reward if they do that.
So would they be able to have, but I mean, okay, so tax exempt status, right? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that's one, right? Now first, first after Oberfell, the initial word was like, okay, well, no, there's going to be no consequences for traditional marriage, which I guess is going to be religion and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, now we're going to come for your tax. Okay, now, all schools, including Catholic schools, all schools have to teach XYZ LGBT doctrine.
I don't
I mean,
know if you.
why couldn't you have that law coming next? That's a reasonable that's reasonable to see that somebody would propose that.
Yeah, and what law? I guess I'm having trouble conceptualizing what like LGBT education law would be put forth,
Well,
right?
you could put that in there. I mean, there's standards in teaching, right? So in homeschooling, even right, you don't have to school, but you have to prove that you're homeschooling. There are still standards that you have to meet. Now they're loose, and there's a lot of people that want to reform them, and I think there's good arguments for and against that. But you could create standards in law that's saying, because you're saying, look, there's no good reason to have discrimination. Why in a teaching environment, whether it's homeschool, religious school, or secular school, should we not teach LGBTQ rights?
Let's say that this policy was implemented and it was the most pro LGBT policy that you could imagine. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was like they were teaching about trans issues to people who are 5. They were telling that had books upon books about mommy and mommy, daddy and daddy, people changing their gender. Let's
Mm-hmm.
say it was like the most nightmare conservative thing you can imagine. Does that then support Ben's claim that he can't raise his kid the way he wants?
Um, if you can't opt out of the indoctrination, yeah, that's really weird.
What counts as indoctrination?
I mean, like if you can't, like, I mean, you've always been able to pull your kids out of sex ed or whatever, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you give the note and you can pull them out of objectionable. You could pull your kid out of, like, back when things were crazy conservative, you could pull your kid out of evolution class, right? Like, when they're going to teach evolution science, you're like, well, no, I'm going to pull my kid out that day. And again, I think that's stupid. And I don't like the people that do that. Obviously, evolution is true, but I think that you have to give these people the right to do that. Again, if it's abutting against religion.
Okay, they can still practice their religion however they want at home, though, right?
Yeah,
That's not
but
infringing upon freedom of religion.
yeah, okay, but it is if you can't opt out of what to hear,
Okay,
right? If I don't want to watch the Brady Bunch, right, then I never have to turn it on, right? And if some place is going to play it, and let's say that every McDonald's place, it's everywhere, then I can just stay in my basement and not have a TV, and I never have to watch the Brady Bunch. But if you're going to say that, look, this is mandatory, and your kid has, then yeah, that's a form of being pushed on. And again, I don't think that the LGBT courses, I don't think that these things are bad. And to be honest, I think that most Christians ought to say, look, son, honey, you should listen to this, but then come back home and we'll teach you what we think. Now, Ben's taken a more hardline stance, but it is pushing your values on them. I mean, like, I'm not particularly fond of religion, but I don't want to force my views on anyone else. I'd rather
you cut out.
I'd rather
Yeah.
convince people, like, on my views, like on religion or agnosticism, whatever.
He
I
used
don't want
that.
to
So
force
he
them.
used that word a lot. He said that we were shoving LGBT ideology down people's throats.
Yeah.
All right. So do you agree with his framing there, or do you disagree with that
Yeah,
general sentiment?
it's a little hyperbole, but in the case that if they made it mandatory and they made it mandatory in your home schools and you couldn't opt out, yeah, that's definitely pushing it down your throat. I mean, right now I wouldn't say it's pushing down your throat, but we are virtue signaling in a huge way. I mean, corporate America is like, it was at LGBT Pride Month. It is. I don't mind this stuff, but it does drive some people up.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
makes
we
money.
are virtue
Right?
signaling, like,
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm gay and they're supporting me, and I don't buy it. It's nice to have it
yeah,
visible,
because
but
they're all about the money, right? I
yeah,
mean, they could care less.
yeah, of
That's the
course.
thing. I just feel like it's so fake.
Yeah, but still, it could be fake and still help people.
I mean, do you like it? Does that?
I think it's a
does it
net
do anything
good.
for you?
I think it's a net
Huh?
good. I think it's a net good.
Okay.
Yeah, they're definitely just quote unquote virtue signaling, but still they're getting the message out there. They're making it
I'm
more
neutral on it.
acceptable.
I don't. I'm not. It doesn't particularly annoy me. I can understand where the conservatives are coming from.
Yeah, I can understand where they're coming from, but I just don't think it's valid.
Hmm.
It's like, so if my existence bothers you, I'm sorry, I can't really do anything about that.
Right.
And that's what they're saying, is that the very existence of the church is problematic, and we're trying to get rid of churches. He made that
Yeah,
claim several times, that we're
he
after,
does.
what we're really trying to do is destroy churches. But really, the most extreme thing in that LGBT town hall was that churches just aren't privileged anymore, and I think that scares him. He thinks that
Yeah.
churches should
Now,
be privileged, and I can point to a lot of things that he said to say that he does still think that religion and religious thought should be privileged as morally superior than secular thought. He said that a lot of times, so it was really cool listening to a podcast that said that my marriage was morally inferior to his twice over. That was cool. That was good for my mental health.
did it bug you? Like, no, seriously. Like, what? How? Like, in reality, how does that make you feel? Like, is it good, bad? Do you care? Like, I don't know. Like, you personally.
Me personally, I don't like seeing that big old 1 million subscriber mark and him saying these ideas. So I'm not
Sure.
the biggest fan of it.
But
Is it?
I don't think. Are you married?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think your marriage is any bit less or more inferior than his.
Yeah.
Like Ben.
Well, thank you.
So, I don't think that. So I'm one of those 1 million, and I don't believe that. Again, now this is where, and I'll concede this much. Can you interpret all of this stuff from the LGBT town hall? No, you can't. But what he's trying to do is take in the cultural essence as a whole. And now, like, there's the other evidence that he's putting in, and one, to his contention specifically, that the mere existence of religion is intolerable to them, or that in itself, the existence is an offense. Like, it is sort of true. Like, the trans, it's not so much the gay argument, but the trans argument, like, with the gay argument, for gay marriage. Okay, well, like, if you're straight, you can get married. If gays, you can get married. But with the trans argument, you have to believe that person, like a trans woman, is a woman and has always been a woman. So it's not something. It's asking you to believe something.
It's
Not
asking
just
you to believe in scientific evidence. I agree.
what. But what's specifically in scientific evidence?
So we have a lot of evidence to suggest that there are differences in the brain. So the uh, sex organs and the brain develop separately in the womb, and we have a lot of evidence to suggest that yes, trans people are valid in their identities. So this is getting a little bit off
But that's
topic,
what it's,
but
an identity. But if it's an identity, it's
identity is
not.
still biological. Like our
It
brains are still
could be. I
biological,
mean,
and
but do you think a Muslim or a Christian identity is biological?
uh, no, and we
No.
still
But
respect them.
is it real? Is it something
It is real, and we
that's
respect
tangible?
them. And
Yeah, you
Ben
bet.
Shapiro says that we respect them, which I thought was very
No,
interesting.
you respect them as people, but you
No,
have to
and we give
respect the
them
identity.
tax exempt status. We give them favorable status based on their identity, the things
Yeah,
that
but
they
lots of
cannot
lots of
prove.
groups get lots of groups. No, you don't base on identity. It's based on
Identity, religions, and identity.
religion's a school of thought.
And then you
Like,
identify as part of that school of thought.
you usually do, but you don't have to.
You don't have
I
to.
mean, but generally, a religion is something that this is what you do when you say, like, Nick Saban is religious about making sure his people tackle well. This just means you go through all the drills, you never skimp, you do things and you never cut corners, right? And that's what religious means. It's a prescription of this is how you need to live your life.
Yes.
You've got to go to church on Sunday. You've got to do this. You've got to do all your sacraments, all that stuff.
Yes, and then if someone says that they're religious, that gives them access to a lot of things. Like we cannot discriminate against them based on this identity, based on their self-identification that they're a part of this group. And Ben wants to make sure that self-identification is good enough justification to discriminate against other people.
Into their own, again, not in positive law, within their own group, yeah.
But he's also against things like business owners. He's
What do you
also
mean?
against like business owners, like he's also against anti-discrimination laws. He thinks that business owners, if they're uncomfortable with providing services to gay people, shouldn't, not do that. Be allowed to not do that.
Specific services. Now he didn't say like if you are selling napkins or something, or steak knives or something, that you should discriminate. He was talking about like things like works of art, like making a cake, making a song, something like that.
Yeah, but would
I
this
mean,
apply to
do
any
you
of?
think that they should?
Yes.
Okay. So if I wanted to go into, like, what if I go into a Muslim bakery and say, I want a cake that says F Mohammed and I need a picture of Mohammed.
Because
I need you to depict him.
so you see what the difference is there. So you're the thing
What is it?
the artwork that you're presenting is discriminatory in and of itself. So it is not an expression of your identity; it is an expression of hatred towards another person. So that's different.
No, but let's just, no,
If the gay
it's
couple
not
had went in
hatred. I
there,
mean, what
no, if the
you,
gay couple,
Islam is not a person; it's an idea.
it's an idea, but
If I say fuck Christianity, I'm not saying
I think that's a little
a person is
disingenuous.
a Christian. I'm saying the belief system.
If you go to a Muslim bakery and then commission a cake that says F Muhammad, it's pretty clear you're
Okay, how
sending a
about I
message
go
to them.
there and I say, you know what? Their depictions of Muhammad were there's many that the depictions of Muhammad. This didn't start. You can find them. This used to be okay, especially in Shia Islam. And
This is getting off topic though, right?
change. So you want to follow a version of Shia Islam that is 1,000 years old. And in that vein, you're allowed to.
This is getting really off
topic. You're going to go to a Sunni Muslim cake, and you're going to say, "Look, I need you to depict Muhammad. Here's an image, and make this." And you're a Muslim that you're a special sect of Shia Muslim that's allowing this. Does he have to do this? This is not hate. Now you're practicing your own religion. It's valid.
Okay, I'm not sure what this has to do with what we were talking about, but
what I'm saying is, you okay. First, you made like the okay. Yes, you can object because it's hateful. Now I've given an example of draw a picture of Muhammad that didn't come from a hateful place, and now you're saying that's not valid. I mean, the thing is, if people don't believe in gay marriage, right? I'm not saying that they're good, right? I talked to my parents on it. I worked on them for 15 years, and they finally moved on gay marriage, right? And now they actually think the church is wrong on that, but they're believer, right? So I don't need to force it down their throats. I convinced them, and it took the time and the effort and being nice about it and not like screaming at them. Like if I would force this down their throat, they'd always reject it.
It doesn't seem to take much to force this down someone's throat, though, to Ben Shapiro. Like, it's literally like you have to perform your job for gay people, and that's forcing it down the throat. So
remember when?
I'll say,
are you religiously? Are you an atheist or what are you?
Atheist.
Okay, so were you active in like atheism like in the last 7 years or so?
Not particularly, but
okay. But when I would talk to religious people all the time, right, and they would try to convince them, look, take another look at the God thing. Are you absolutely sure? But I would always respect that they had this belief. That I thought, okay, you know what, you're looking at a fairy tale.
Do you understand the difference between legislating racism and?
I have to respect them, even if I don't respect the belief. I respect that they hold the.
Okay, is it illegal to be racist in the United States?
No, it's not.
Of course. Is it illegal to discriminate based on race, though?
It's illegal to discriminate in workplace for your hiring. Yeah, sure.
I was going to say, so there's a difference between legal discrimination and personal discrimination, correct?
Yeah.
So we're going after personal discrimination. You can hate gay people all you want to. I'm never going to try to legislate that. But what I'm concerned with is I want, from a legislative standpoint, suck it up. We have to deal with each other.
Yeah, we do. But I guess that's the point. Like, at what point because there's some weird things in religion, right? Like, at what point do you say that they're allowed to do this? For example, should Jehovah's Witnesses should we allow them to decline blood forms in the hospital?
If it's, let's see, there's a medical, if they are awake and conscious, yes, they can deny anything they want to.
Like, I pre-signed this for surgery, so I'm going in for surgery or I'm going under general. I pre-sign a thing that says I don't want a blood transfusion, even if there's a complication. Turns out there's a complication, so you can't get my consent. And
I would offer that to anybody
with the blood transfusion. But I pre-signed when I was sane and conscious. Said no, I don't want it. Do you let me die?
Yep, that's your choice.
Okay, you do.
Yeah, and that doesn't just extend to Jehovah's Witnesses. If you say that, I think you have the right to die.
Okay. But so you just say it's the right to die, but you don't. So you're basically accepting it, but you're accepting it on non-religious grounds.
Right.
So is there any weird religious thing that you would accept solely on religious grounds?
You can do whatever you want to in the privacy of your own home, or you can do whatever you want to outside as long as it doesn't infringe on the rights of other people. And discriminating against certain groups of people is infringing upon their rights.
All right.
I think
Okay,
this is fairly cut and dry.
Would you let them opt out of like the LGBT class that was required by the public school?
Sure.
Okay. So then right away it doesn't meet Ben Shapiro's case.
Right. Because he pulled that out of nowhere. He pulled the scariest version that he could do to.
He did.
Yeah. So I think we both agree that he was trying to rile up his audience in an effort to get more clicks, right?
I don't like to get on people's motivation. Now, is there a certain amount of red meat that a lot of these people use? Yeah. But this is true on both sides. So I give it. I think that Ben throws out a lot less red meat than others do. That's why when I want a view on the right, I usually go to Ben because I think he's fair. People, at least of the popular.
We must have watched two very different podcasts then.
Again, I watched a lot of him overall. So I'm not judging a single episode. I'm judging many volumes.
Yeah, I just watched this one, and I'll admit that I'm not familiar with his work to a great extent.
He's more fired up in this one. Yeah, I agree. And can you make the objection that he's being hyperbolistic, that he's raising the temperature unnecessarily? Yeah, you absolutely can.
If you want a culture war, you damn well have it.
Right. Can you say that he's inciting people to violence? No. Is it stochastic terrorism? Maybe, but if it's stochastic terrorism, then all of Antifa's stochastic terrorism, and a shit ton of people like Cenk Ungar. I mean, there's going to be so many people that qualify under this. I mean, the left is riled up too right now. I mean, and I.
This is whataboutism. You know that, right?
Well, no. If we're gonna, the point is, you can agree or not, but if once you call it stochastic terrorism. Now we have to define what that is, and then we have to apply the standard fairly. So if you want to call it stochastic terrorism, that's fine. But what I need is now a definition so I can do this. And now if everybody, like 90% of the commentators are under this definition, either we have a lot of stochastic terrorists or we've made our definition too broad.
To me, stochastic terrorism, the primary factor was the end point of what I'm telling you is that you need to get ready to commit violence.
Okay, so now I would disagree. With that definition, I don't think
he meets it.
Why?
Get a gun.
Because violence
to what?
Me is offensive.
No,
when I
that's bad. That's a bad definition of violence. Yeah, if you're coming at me with a knife and I shoot you in the head, it's self-defense and that's also violence. It's both at once.
Agreed. Right. So violence, but when you say violence, are we just talking about is self-defense included in violence?
Of course, yes.
Okay. So what's wrong with that, though? If you have a gun and I'm trying to hurt you or kill you, you're allowed to shoot me.
Yes.
And I wouldn't say you're a violent, but if you did violence, but you're not a violent person, you were defending yourself. You're justified in that shooting.
Yes, and he is trying to lower the bar for what counts as justification.
No, but he raised the bar. I mean, he made a ton of caveats. He said everything that he had tried to do everything and opt out of everything, and they said no.
He did everything except he did everything except form a logical train of thought between Beto's remarks and shooting Beto in the head. He did not.
Again, we can make a hypothetical. If I say you're on a railroad car and this is coming at you, and then you could save this person by pushing this person out. That's complete hypothetical. I don't need to give you a story of how we got in the train.
He's talking about a news event. If you're talking about a news event and you draw a hypothetical from that news event, you necessarily have to tell you how you get from the news event you're talking about to the hypothetical.
But again, what he was saying is, it wasn't specifically from this. This is where he's adding the cultural milieu into this, right? You've got a ton of people getting, conservatives are very, very, they're self-censoring on campus. Right, this is proven in the data. It seems like it's not
actually.
Huh?
It's not actually proven in the data. Conservatives are very conservatives are very slightly more likely to feel if they want to self-censor on campus. About 13% more likely than very liberal students. or very
Yeah,
left students. They conflate left and liberal, but about
I know.
14% more likely.
Well, maybe on certain things, right? I mean, look, the data from Heterodox Academy, I trust that. I think it's good.
I trust Inside Higher Education, which is a newsletter that,
Inside higher education.
yeah.
Is that the same people that make the Chronicle?
Chronicles of Higher Education. I don't know if they're the same people. If they are, they're
Okay.
not very creative.
Yeah, Chronicle's okay. I subscribe to that too. They're kind of a mix of what I think is like kind of hardcore SJW, and then some absolute no, like hate that stuff. So that I think it's a reasonable mix.
Okay. So anyway, you were going somewhere with that.
But the point is, like what he's saying is like the certain cultural milieu, like there's certain things that you can't say. Like you couldn't make The Office anymore. You certainly couldn't make Blazing Saddles. I mean, most of the stuff like you can't make anymore, right? You put Scarlett Johansson to scar, is a trans man to like to tell the story about a marginalized, misunderstood group. No, she can't do that. He's saying this culture is insane, and the thing is, people are caving to it. So why wouldn't the government, like, and you admit that Walmart's caving to LGBT for the money, right? That they don't really give a shit about gay rights, that all they care about is the money. So why wouldn't the government cave to all this shit for the votes and then screw over the religious? That's completely a reasonable argument to make. And it's a fear to have. And again, part of this argument isn't that he's making a logical this domino fall, right? There's a lot of dominoes in domino fall. He doesn't explain how that's going to happen. It's the fear. But people, are fears.
We're going to go back to your description of SJWs, but go ahead and finish your point.
Again, and when I mean SJW, I mean SJW thought. I really tried to talk about
we'll get to that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but
yeah, but the point is, fear is real, right? So, how to make somebody scared? And I'm like, well, see, this is how you make conservatives scared. So, do we want a bunch of scared conservatives? Is that good? Do we want a bunch of scared liberal and progressive?
Do you think that
right?
it's okay?
This is my biggest argument against Trump is he's flipping people out, right? This is not good rhetoric. He's raising the temperature. This is bad.
Yes, he's doing that by harming other people. How is it harmful for someone to have to serve gay people or trans people? How is that harmful?
But he's not saying that. Again, now we're talking about the gay wedding cake. Again, you have to explain then why would you force the Muslim then to another Muslim that wanted to depict Muhammad? Like, this is a ridiculous thing. Like, to people like us that don't believe, we find this absurd, right? They don't want to depict somebody, like, whatever. Like, the fact that these people think that your marriage is inferior, right? Mm-hmm. I'm sorry they feel that way. That sucks. But they feel that way. And like this person,
and they're allowed to feel that way.
Okay, he feels that way. I think it's stupid, but whatever. Like I gotta respect that they have this weird tie to it. And maybe if I'm friends with them for 20 years, maybe I can move on that. But I'm not gonna do anything good by forcing their hand.
Oh yeah, you are. Hold
really?
on. Let's take it back to this specific example. So I don't want to wait 20 years before the area I live in has anti-discrimination laws and that I can get a job.
I'm not saying anti-discrimination laws. I'm talking about individual like things like this. Like artistry is individual.
What's individual?
Like it's artistry. So
our history, okay.
If some neo-Nazi, maybe I'm a good painter, and some neo-Nazi comes to me and he's like, I want a picture of Hitler that blah blah blah. Am I allowed to refuse that commission?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, on an individual level, sure. Yeah, you don't have to draw things you don't want to.
But what? But no. I this is my business. My business is art, and I do custom paintings for a living. Am I allowed to refuse it?
Not on the basis of protected classes.
So, not on the basis. So what does that mean? Am I allowed to refuse that neo-Nazi?
Yes, neo-Nazis are not a protected class.
On the basis that I don't feel comfortable making that picture.
Yeah, you don't have to take any commissions that you don't want to.
Okay.
But in the Kate case, it was very clear that they were being refused because they were a gay couple.
Sure. Right. So now I guess the question is, okay, fine. Is religion a protected class?
Yes.
Okay. So then if you're in religious beliefs, are those protected?
Yes.
And your religious belief is that God intended for marriage to be between one man and one woman, The gay people can do whatever they want. I just don't want to be part of it, so I don't want to make the.
You don't have to get gay married. Therefore,
Yeah,
it's not
but he
infringing upon
doesn't
your
want to
religious
be like.
beliefs.
But my religion says that I can't be part of it. I can go out to dinner with you. I can go to a baseball game with you, but I can't do. Again, I don't. This is not how I feel. I'm trying to make their
Sure.
argument.
Okay, just make sure that you, if you are part of that business, you do not take benefit in any part of society. Make sure you don't have access to a road that society builds with tax dollars. Make sure you don't have access to power lines that society builds with tax dollars. Make sure you don't have access to any sort of infrastructure that society builds with their tax dollars. Then I'm fine with it.
Why? Like, why would you?
You cannot have a business that benefits from society while also refusing to serve a section of that society based on attributes that are outside of their control.
Okay, so you're going to deny them freedoms of roads?
Yes.
Okay, so you're going farther than Beto.
Yeah, I'm going. This is why I'm not running for president.
You're confirming the same fears. So Beto said, "I just want to pull taxes." Ass. You're like, screw it. He doesn't even get to.
Roads, yeah. Why should you be able to benefit from society?
Society.
Yes.
And we have to sometimes tolerate people that are assholes.
Yes.
People that believe ridiculous
Hold
stuff.
on. How are you not supporting my point more than the Bakers right now? Yeah, we live in a pluralistic society. You got to tolerate that there are gay people out there who are going to come to your shop to buy things.
Yeah. Now, like the only way, like the way that your argument would make sense is if, like, for example, you have a small town, right? And there's no way to get at the cake anywhere. There's one baker, right? And this is the only way to get a cake. Your argument's stronger. But if there is a shit ton of cake bakers around, 19 out of 20 do it, and you demand it from the one that doesn't want to?
Oh, shit, I forgot about the civil rights movement. The whole reason we had the civil rights movement is there weren't enough restaurants that would serve black people, otherwise we wouldn't have had it. Like, all those anti-discrimination laws wouldn't have happened if black people could have eaten somewhere else.
And I'm with you on that. I think discrimination on race is stupid.
Yeah.
But you can't make a religious argument, right?
Sure you can.
Really? Where is it?
A lot of people believe, a lot of Mormons believe that. A lot of people believe that Cain, the story of Cain. Here's the thing, you can pull things wherever you want to. We justified slavery for a long time based on religious grounds.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, so you could justify it any way you want to. You could justify murdering people.
You could, yeah, you could have a racist religion. Okay, yeah, that's fair. You're right. You could take the Cain. That's actually pretty. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that one. And was it? No, it wasn't Cain. It was. It's the other one. It's post flood. It's one of Moses' kids.
Yeah, something like that.
It's 3 kids. It's one of his 3 kids. Sorry, I'm not pulling that up.
But but there have been I know for a fact there have been religious arguments made against racism in the past, and we don't view them as good enough anymore because you cannot discriminate against people in society. Because we are not a theocracy. You can practice your religion however you want to. I would never support a law that says that you have to date a person of a different race or anything like that. That would be totalitarian tyranny. But we're not even a little bit close to that. We're just saying that you cannot discriminate against other people based on these protected classes.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. It's interesting to see, like, and I'm not sure, like, I mean, you could make a religious argument. There are the religious arguments made for slavery, and certain immoral things. So I guess really you have to, right? You could justify this, and then obviously you could have a ridiculous religious belief that, like, that our religion has human sacrifice, for example, right? I mean, are you not going to arrest those? Right. Well, what are you going to do? You have to, right? So the question becomes, is there an externality, right? If you say, I'm in a religion that's having human sacrifice, then, well, there's an externality. There's somebody else that you have to do. So assuming that this is the same reason that they allowed gay marriage, right? There was no externality. What were the damages? Then SCOTUS asked when they were reading their briefs, tell me the damages to traditional marriage if we allow them. And they couldn't come up with anything good. We
still haven't come up with any.
So they're right. So I agree. So there were no externality.
Right. So losing tax exempt status, is that damaging?
It's a big problem. And it is city like Seattle or whatever, especially where these cakes come from, to go across the street, is it any skin off this person's back? Is that really an externality? I agree with you if there's no other baker, then that's a different case. But in this case, like that, in a modern
So
society, which
discrimination is
everything's
okay as long as you
available,
have other options?
huh?
So
Yeah,
discrimination's okay as long as you have other options.
I'm
How do you
saying,
implement
is
this
it?
on a large
I'm not saying
scale?
it's moral. I'm not saying it's
I'm
moral.
not. I'm
I'm
saying how do
saying,
you
should
implement?
you allow it?
I'm asking for the legal argument. How do you make sure this is implemented on a large scale?
Right. I mean, right. Remember, not everything that's illegal you should like go and try to fix, right?
I
I mean,
guess
how many illegal immigrants do we have? Do you want to deport them all?
no.
Right? Do you want to go fix that and like make sure that only the people that are citizens here, the people that are here legally and their visa's not expired, that are here? Like, no, that's stupid. You don't say just because it's illegal that you have to. So, and just because it's immoral, right? So, this is what I'm saying is this is dumb for the civil rights movement and for the activists to be going after them because you it was great to go after gay marriage. There was obvious things that traditional couples were getting that gays weren't. But on this, you can't you got to go across the street to get a cake, and somebody that actually believes in LGBT rights versus asshole doesn't. You want the cake from him? Come on.
I
You're
don't
doing it
like
to
the
piss him off, and
what
you
you're
know.
saying. So is this what you're saying? I want you to see if this is not what you're saying. I should be fine with a little bit of discrimination, with a little bit of
Yeah,
not
there's
being
people
all
that
the way
hate me for no good
equals.
reason, and yeah, I got to be fine with it. I've got to be like, I don't have to like it, but I have to. I can't be like, I'm. We need to punish those people. That I need to act with some kind of retribution. I got to live with those people. I'm not going to associate with them much, but we have to share the same society. I have got to share the roads with them.
I agree. We do have to share the roads. I just want the same slice of road that everyone
But
else
at some
has.
point, you
And you're
said,
sitting
well,
here,
no.
you're sitting here telling me that no, you have to deal with a smaller slice of that road, just because some people
No, I'm
aren't going
not,
to like
because
you.
I'm not denying you the road.
What?
Like, I'm
Okay,
just
so
saying this guy's
literally
an
every single
asshole.
anti-discrimination law protects everyone equally. If there's a law that prevents discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation, that protects gay people as well as straight people, as well as bi people, as well as pan people. That protects everyone on the basis of sexual orientation. I am literally getting no special treatment if there is a law that prevents discrimination based on the basis of sexual orientation. I'm literally getting no special treatment. We're protecting straight people as well.
Yeah, right. I agree.
Yeah, so that levels the playing field. I can't discriminate against you for being straight, and you can't discriminate against me for being gay. We're level. We're sharing the road together. That's a far more
Okay.
equal outcome than, well, we can actually discriminate against sexual orientation, but it kind of means that there's one group who you can discriminate against, and because they're not very big, and you can get away with it, versus the other group, well, they're than most of the population. You can't have a business if you discriminate
Yeah,
against them.
again, based on a religious belief. It's like, why, again, you're going to have to tell me why the Muslim who won't make a cake of Muhammad being pictured, why that's justified, whether that
Why do you
superstition is
think that's
justified. You know,
analogous? Why do you think
huh?
that's analogous? So it would be very
Because
reasonable.
they're both kind of silly things. Again, I don't think that discrimination against LGBT people is a good thing, right? I think it's stupid. I think that Ben Shapiro needs to take another look at it. When like, you want me to say that thing that I think is the most odious about Shapiro?
That he's
It's
not very
this.
scientific.
Huh?
That he's not very scientific and he's
No,
dishonest.
that he said he's good buddies with Dave Rubin, right? But he's
Mm-hmm.
like, I wouldn't go to your wedding, right? I wouldn't go to something that's dear, but I'd go out to dinner with you and your husband. And Bob and I think you should be able to get married, but I wouldn't go to your. Come on, dude. Like, you'll go to dinner with them and you'll break bread with them there, but you can't. Like, come on, dude. Like, that's ridiculous. How he's got to square that. Fine, and that whatever he wants to do, but like, that's a weirdity. We have to tolerate people like that.
Yeah, yeah. I would never legislate that. Ben Shapiro
But
doesn't.
tolerating that doesn't mean forcing it down their face. There's a difference. Like this, I'll
We're talking
tolerate
about
you
two
if
different
you do
things
what I
here.
say. That's not toleration.
No, we're talking about two different things here. There's nothing that Beto O'Rourke or anyone else has proposed legally would prevent Ben Shapiro from doing exactly that. He can still not go to the gay wedding if he doesn't want to.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I agree that if the context of just what Beto said, you're right. That it's not there, and there's no reason to like meet anyone at the door with any gun.
And
However, You yourself took it to the whole, well, they don't get to share a road. Once we're down that road, yeah. Now
I
you've
took it
got
as an
all kinds
extreme example to say,
we're gonna disconnect you from the grid. Yeah, at that point,
yeah, if you don't
yeah.
serve society, why should you benefit from society?
Oh man, like say that to anyone that's on welfare. Are you kidding me? Like that's insane. I'd say that to the disabled. Say that to people. Like,
You know what I
yikes.
was talking about
That
right
sounds
there.
Hitler-esque, honestly.
Yeah,
If you meant it that
Hitler-esque.
way.
Hold on. I was talking about businesses and you know it.
Okay, I don't. I just say it came off.
Yeah, I was
Um,
talking about businesses and you know it. If you're going to open a business that
no, I'm
benefits from
not
the
saying you did. I said
infrastructure,
it. I don't. I do. Actually, I think you're. I don't think you meant it like that. I'm just saying it came off weird. So businesses would say it again.
if obviously I was talking about businesses, and if you were going to be open to society and benefit from the infrastructure that society has put in place for you, and the public that is going to be, buying from you, you should serve
Yeah.
all the public without discriminatory practices based on protected classes. Now, that doesn't mean if someone is an absolute jerk, you have
But
to let
why
them in
only
your
based on
store.
protected classes? Why can't? Could I discriminate against? Well, that guy's just an asshole. He
Of
beat me
course.
up all the time when I was a
Of
kid. Can
course.
I not serve that person?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So
Or if someone
like,
steals from your store,
yeah.
of course, yeah. Or if
So
someone
if I've
causes
got a
disturbances in your store, of course, yes.
okay, but what if I just didn't like the look of them?
Nope.
No,
No, of course not.
but that's not a protected class.
Why don't you like the look of him?
I don't know. I just don't.
You don't know.
I think it's
That's
creepy.
nonsense.
He reminds me of somebody that did beat me up one time.
No, that's nonsense.
Really?
Yes.
Well, there's cases in Title IX in college where a guy was removed from a classroom because he looked like a guy that had actually raped a woman. Right?
Okay.
So this guy who'd done nothing else, he looked like somebody that was an issue for her. So they asked him.
I'm not sure what you're trying to prove with this anecdote.
What I'm saying is, like, if we're going to take this to its extreme, like, shouldn't people that have been victimized be a protected class? And at what point do you cater to that? Like, at some point you have to stop catering. Like, I think that are you missing any rights? Like, do you feel free in this society?
Oh, yeah. I'm living in one of the very few parts of Kentucky that have anti-discrimination laws.
Okay, you live in Kentucky. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, and are you living like small town, big city? I don't want to
Big city.
say where you live unless you do.
Well, big city for Kentucky. There are two cities in Kentucky. I live in one of them. And those are the only two parts of the state in which anti-discrimination laws are a thing. If I go 30 miles east or west or north or south of here, I will lose my protected class status. And then
Okay.
And then it is perfectly legal for me to not get hired at a job for being gay. It is perfectly valid for a job
Sure.
not to
Now, how
provide
often
spousal
does that-
benefits.
How often do we have any stats in Kentucky on how often that happens?
How often would it need to happen before it's unjust?
Well, I don't know. Like, this is the same argument with trans bathrooms, right? Like, they're saying the conservatives get nuts about this, and like the trans people saying this has never been an issue, and they're kind of right, right? So if it hasn't been an issue, like you got to show me the torch before, like, the enemy of good is better. So I'm all with you at trying to fix something if there's some real bad shit going. But if there's no evidence that there's discrimination going on in the first place, I don't see any.
If we somehow got the murder rate down to 0, should we just decriminalize murder?
No, that's why would we do that?
Yeah, and that's why I'm asking you. Like, it doesn't need to be rampant discrimination going on before we should have these anti-discrimination laws.
Okay. All right. But that's fair. That's fair. But is it going to, like, if you do the anti-discrimination laws again in the public sphere, I'm fine with. Like, when we talk about hiring, I'm okay with. If we want to put those in there, then sure, I'd sign that petition. But if we're talking about like forcing religious people that don't want to go to an LGBT seminar that they have to as part of their employment or not part of their employment, but as part of like their kids' schooling or something like that, then no, I'm not for it.
You don't. Okay, what if the education was just that, hey, gay people exist?
Hmm. I mean, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with like going
Do
right.
you think
Like,
that's part?
but
That's a good part of the curriculum?
I don't know. I mean, are they objecting to it? You're saying that gay people exist. I mean, that'd be a weak objection, but I mean, if they want to, can't let gay people exist. No, that you might be able to just.
Yeah, yeah. I think you'd be
That's gonna be
easily able
hard.
to justify that. Like these are people in society. We're going to learn about them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the gay people, right? Now, if you push that on Ahmadinejad, right? He might deny that.
How about wait? What?
The guy from Iran, remember when in Colombia in 2008, they asked in Iran, well, what do you do with your gay people? And he said, well, we don't have that problem.
Yeah, of course. If someone was like that here, it's pretty good that we have
That's
this
what he
education
said.
system.
It's sometimes what the crazy religious say,
Yeah,
right?
of
So
course.
I'm just saying,
So it's actually good that they get education because that benefits society. It
right?
benefits society if we teach messages of tolerance, anti-bigotry.
Right,
If
but
we
it
push
isn't.
that
It's
ideology in
not
schools, right?
tolerance, but right, but if you want to move these people, it's not tolerance to it's tolerance to invite them. You still have to let them opt out. So if you want to put the law in place and they're allowed to opt out, then I'm fine with it. If you give them a safety valve to opt out, because most people won't opt out. Most people will go. But there might be a few nutties that want to opt out. Honestly, think it's better to keep the temperature down to let them opt. Because you're talking about the stochastic terrorism. How is that not stochastic? If you're going to purposely ramp these people up
It sounds like you're
for no
saying
good
that we
reason.
have to slow the gaining of human rights for certain people in order to not piss off
Yeah.
bigots.
Yeah, but say I think that what you're doing is you're basing the foundations of society on like on these things, on civil rights. Right? Civil rights are the product of the society, right? It's not the foundation of that. And like so I think that's what you're mixing up the product and the foundation.
What is the
Right? And
foundation
I'm
of
borrowing
society?
this concept from Douglas Murray, who talks about it in his latest book that
The race and IQ guy?
real tolerance is actually tolerating the person that doesn't believe it. I mean, if you we talk about ISIS, right?
You
Who does
know the
ISIS want to
paradox of
kill more,
tolerance,
a
right?
Christian or a Shia Muslim? Shia Muslims are top on their list, so they like they're the little tiny differences between Shia Islam and Sunni Islam make people want to kill. Like this is stuff that most Americans don't even know the first thing about. And what are you going to do when you have hard people and this you're going to have to get along. And you're going to have to structure society to do that.
You keep using these really
Can't force
vague
it on them.
statements like we're going to have to get along, we're going to have to get along, but you seem to be favoring the people who are doing the oppressing.
I mean,
Like,
and by get along, I don't mean like each other and this and that. I mean not kill each other. Like and not harass each other and not trying to like get each other fired or this kind of stuff. Like it's basically not at each other's.
this is an unequal power dynamic in this situation. You understand that, though, right? It
What
seems
do you
like
mean?
you're getting way more upset at the small section of this minority group who are raising their voice than you are against the people who have been traditionally in power who are trying to keep them down, to try to make sure they never raise up all the way to equality.
Yeah, I guess this is the whole idea. Like, you talk about traditionally and this and that, right? Like, okay, well then, and so the point is, and I've heard that. Okay, well, traditionally, white people have, there really was, like, in like Jim Crow. I mean, this is the epitome of white privilege, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. Does white privilege exist now?
Yes.
Much more debatable. Things like men and women, LGBT. There's no doubt that
Okay, this is actually a good time to transition. So I wanted to ask you this earlier. What are some hardcore SJW ideologies that you disagree with?
I, I, I guess you know, weird thing. I guess hardcore. That we disagree. That certainly like the gender being
I'm sorry, you cut out.
right. This is the
You cut out.
concept
You
from
cut out. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
uh, gender being performative. This is, I think, Bell Hook's idea, or no. no, it's
Do you think that some aspects of gender aren't
the
performative?
who wrote Gender Trouble. Why is that? The name's escaping me. Um, yeah, if we Google Gender Trouble, it'll come right up. But the gender is not performative, right? And gender is also not
How is it not
elective.
performative? At least in some
Huh?
aspects.
That's wholly performative because there's innate things like that you're either born that way. Like if there's not a biological determination to being gay, then okay, then it's a choice, right? The whole idea is that it's not a choice,
It doesn't matter if it's a choice or not, right?
right? So, but if gender's performative, then how is that? It can be a choice.
Yeah.
Like if I simply perform, I can choose then to be a different gender. Now
Yeah.
it's a
What if that
choice.
made you happier?
Well, it might make me happier, but it doesn't like I could make me happier to say that Elvis is alive. It doesn't mean that you have to believe it or it should be on Wikipedia. That could make me happier and you could humor me and
That's
people
a little
around me could humor me.
self-identification is a little bit different than that, though, right?
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
I have
Tell
science backing up the fact that trans people exist.
me. Of course they exist.
Yes. No, I'm saying that they also exist, like scientifically, biologically. That a trans
Okay,
person.
and the jury's out on that. I don't think that we know. I think that that there's got to be some core genetic reason to it. Yeah, I would agree. I don't think we've teased it out, but I would agree that
Yeah,
there's got to be a
the
biological.
research is fairly new, but it's starting to tease out that most of the research is hinting at that. But
It
even
is.
if it wasn't,
Now, the thing is, but then this is also so you have that, and I agree. But then there's also an explosion of rapid onset (ROGD), rapid onset gender dysphoria.
why is that
Like,
a bad thing?
and is all of that real, or some of it is social contagion? Even 5%.
Even 5%, some of it might be. Some of it might
Okay.
be people following trends.
Th-
Some people might have a
say-
new concept that they didn't know
I dare
existed.
you to say that online. That 5%, like if you will get
I just did that.
on.
I bet that when gay marriage was legalized, a lot more people came out.
Okay.
I bet that
But-
was the thing that happened.
Do you think that there were straight people that were coming out?
I think that is a non-zero percentage of people
Do
who
you
were
think
straight
that
who
there were-
formed gay. Yeah, sure.
What percent of okay, so we're in all those like the come outs, right? Do you believe that there was any part of the that there was social contagion or not?
When you say social contagion, one, that's pretty loaded
What I
language.
mean is that I did not up to a certain point think that I was gay at all. It wasn't like I was coming out, that I was gay, but I was afraid to admit it, right? And now you have the courage to come out, so I decide, okay, well, I'm going to come out too.
Let's say that did
It's
happen.
just
Why is
all
it
of a
bad?
sudden, all these people come out, and I was like, I've never had a gay thought, and I'm going, poof, I'm gay.
Let's say that did happen, and let's say it happened at a pretty statistically significant level. Why is that bad?
Well, I'm saying, okay, that and you're right, that isn't that bad. But let's say that if when you did that, then you're going on cross-sex hormone.
Okay, well,
See, with
man,
gay
you
and
must be
lesbian blood,
pretending
you're
pretty
not
hard then.
going on hormones.
I'll say you must be pretending pretty hard then.
What do you mean?
Like, if you're gonna commit to pretending that much, man, you must really want to fit in.
Yeah. Oh man, were you a kid?
Yes.
Like, did you do some really insane things to fit in?
No.
I did.
Not like
man.
perform
And there's
medical.
A lot of people. There are a lot of people that maybe you didn't, and maybe you were you were probably one of the cool kids. Like I wasn't, and I did a lot
sure.
of crazy things to fit in.
Okay. Do you understand that goes the other way far more often, right?
What do you mean?
Like a trans kid is going to pretend to be cis at a way higher rate.
Okay. If you've been to high school, look, like if you're a trans in high school right now, you're a superstar.
You're what?
You're a superstar.
Oh, wow. Do you have any data to back that up, or is that just a wild anecdote?
Yes.
So let me go back to my high school in Eastern
Yes.
Kentucky. Let's see.
So
Let's see what my high school in Eastern Kentucky is like.
could Eastern Kentucky be section 5? Maybe it is. Maybe it is. But in a lot of areas, I would say in the large majority of areas, if you come out as trans, you're the cool because you're different. You're neat. Like people affirm it. So if that happened, right, and the two coolest people in school were trans, and I have no friends. Why wouldn't and I really thought that I might do it.
Tell you what, you find that happening at a large scale, and I'll entertain it. But right now, this sounds like nonsense. This sounds like an anecdote. This sounds like an anecdote. You've seen it reported. I need data. I'm sorry. I don't form my opinions on feelings like that.
All right. I know this as far as data. Why did the trans activist groups in Canada shut down the primary clinic run by
Dr. Kenneth Zucker?
Yeah.
Or was it Robert or Kenneth?
Huh?
That doesn't matter.
Why did they shut it down? They lied. First of all, so they sent a plant in, right? So activist groups can be really bad, right? So some activists are great. Some activist groups can be very extreme and very bad. So they shut down the guy who's got the best science on this, or at least one of the longer term sciences. This guy's pro-trans, right? It's just he was treating with the therapy of maybe you should transition, maybe you shouldn't, right? Maybe you'll just become used to your own gender, and you'll probably be a gay man or a gay woman, but you need to cope with life. Maybe that's transition. But for his numbers, about 80% eventually desisted and became comfortable with their own
I've
gender.
seen those studies, and I do not trust that number.
Okay, well, that science is all it's funny in the medical community. It's not controversial. It's only controversial.
It's pretty controversial.
It's not controversial.
I have went over every single one of those studies that typically get brought up in desistance rates, and they are extraordinarily dishonest. Now, I desistance happens, absolutely.
Okay, what percent? What percent is?
You can't tell from the studies that you typically see.
But let's say, wait, no, they say for 50. Let's just say 10% desistance.
Yeah, let's say.
Right?
You know what? Let's say 80% desist. Isn't that the system doing its job? Listening to the kid? Isn't that just listening to the kid?
Right.
What changes?
Because affirmative therapy. So affirmative therapy, you're not allowed to challenge it. So in Zucker's version, you could do both, and you could ask questions. You didn't have to.
You do that now.
Really? Huh?
You do that now. You still ask questions to make sure.
There are absolute places. There's some clinics that are straight up affirmative.
Okay,
straight up. That's the policy. There is no Zucker. That therapy is not allowed, right? The pediatricians don't know what to do. So right now, the serious scientists, the activism is wrecked science in this way. And so the pediatricians, they kind of don't know what to do. They're looking for the endocrinologists to tell us what to do. And the societies. I'm sorry. This.
You got it.
Yeah. Sorry.
You're good.
Cord fail. The societies are being moved by the activists. I think that we should leave this straight to the science. When activists get involved in science, bad things happen. When activists get involved in anything, especially things that need to be neutral, this is not good. If activists are involved in the army, it's bad. If activists are involved in science, it's bad.
Do you think that activists shouldn't be speaking their minds in science? That's how homosexuality is declassified as a mental illness, right? It wasn't science, it was activists.
No, activists have a role. They have a role, right? But I don't like that role in science. That role is in the public. That role is what we're doing now. If you want to be an activist, this is the person to be an activist on YouTube, right? Yep. But it's not in scientific circles. I don't get to bully the scientists.
So you're familiar with
me and tell me that I'm wrong all day long and that I need to change my views because I'm just wrong.
So especially as it regards to mental illness, are you familiar with the term medicalization?
Medical, I understand it to mean that you need some sort of treatment.
Yeah, so it's diagnosing
whether it's drugs.
It's diagnosing a set of symptoms and further saying that it needs some sort of treatment. It could be with drugs, it could be with something else.
Correct. Yeah.
All right, so a lot of mental illness, that's based on the norms of society. And so if activists are telling you that the norms have changed, mental illness can change as well. What we diagnose as mentally ill can change as well.
Yeah, but again, they should let the scientists run their own stuff. Activists can also tell them that society's changed when it actually hasn't.
All right,
so activists can lie.
Activists can lie. They can also. Do you think that scientists are that doctors especially? Do you think that oh man, if I do what I think is going to be bad for this kid, I'm going to get yelled at by the SJW. So I guess I'm gonna hurt this kid so I don't get yelled at. Do you think that actually happens?
I think no, what I think is happening is that, well, first of all, like, there's certain things that you can't do in medicine. So there's certain things that you might actually think that help this patient that you're not allowed to do. There's all kinds of things that's the case. We get into that, but no, I think the pediatricians just don't know. You're not an endocrinologist. You're not a psychologist. You're not trained in this. You're trained in pediatrics. So you're looking to these experts like, hey, what do we need to be looking for? Who do we refer out? Right? What are the signs? What are the symptoms? How do you know? This is how a general practitioner like knows what to do. They're
Yeah, so they
essentially
do
their
that.
entire job is to be filtering things to specialists.
Yeah, and that's kind of how the system works now.
Yeah. But if the endocrinologists and these groups, like, that if they're told, and there are pediatricians that don't buy into this, but like they can't get time. They can't get time to speak. Like, this just should be a robust debate. Lots of things in medicine are a robust debate. You can't talk about it. And this
Yes, you
one's
can.
unfortunately.
We talk about it all the time. We're doing it right now.
Yeah. We are, right? We are, but like we're not leaders in the medical.
I don't
If
see
I'm a
any
leader in the medical
evidence
community
of
for John
this.
Hopkins, and I say, and I present my evidence, and it doesn't fit with what the activist wants, the activists are going to smear me.
No, they're not. You can
Yes,
present your
they
evidence.
are.
Hold on. Do you think that activists have a ton of like?
I think that some activists care way more about their agenda than they do about the truth. Now, that is not true with all activists, but there are that, unfortunately, activism attracts those kind of people.
Why do you
That's
think
just
that
a
science
fact.
is being censored?
Huh?
Do you think that science is being censored?
Well, it certainly did with the case in the Lisa Lippman case in Brown. The ROGD paper got retracted. Brown were thought, wow, this is great. It got accepted as in plus one, which is an amazing journal. So they boosted them. They're like, hey, Lisa Lippman got this thing approved plus one. Trans activists shut them down. Not only did they pulled it down off the website, and then they are like, oh, actually, we've got to look at the methodology and this, like, maybe this was wrong. Okay, now it's been republished, right? The trans, like, and this was the argument. So they're like, oh, this is bad. Like, this is to retract a scientific journal that's insanity. So it got republished. Now, the trans people, this is what I was hearing from the activist crowd, was it wasn't that we disagreed with their conclusions. It was the methodology.
Yeah, the methodology
right?
seems
But
pretty
now
shit.
it's republished. Look, I've read the two studies. Put them side. I challenge you to put them side by side and look. The only difference is the title and a little bit of the introduction where they change a few phrases. That is it. There's
Yeah, it could still be a shit paper.
change. Now it's okay.
It could still be a shit methodology.
How?
Asking parents
But
and your recruitment
if the
methods.
methodology is flawed. How did it get republished in plus one and now it isn't?
I don't know.
Basically, the scientists won this battle. The scientists were, this is a win for science and a loss for the activists. Again,
Whoa, no, it's a loss for science if it's bad methodology. Like this, okay, I'm
but
all
it
for.
got republished. It's not bad. The only
And now
thing
it's
that is
out there.
bad
That's not a
about it
hold
is-
on. That's a win for science,
Okay,
yes, but
if
that
I'm
paper
an
is now out
Elvis
there to
activist
be
that
criticized.
says Elvis is still alive, I could be convincing and this and that. It does not make me right. Okay, so if I get Wikipedia say Elvis is still alive, is that a win for science? No, it's a lying activist, and there are trans rights.
Hold on. What power did those activists have to pull that paper?
They bullied because, like, right
Bullied.
now,
They bullied?
We are
So they should stay silent?
We care so much about marginalized groups that actually the best place to bully from is actually a marginalized position. Most marginalized people do not do that.
It is so terrible that we have this voice now. It's so great.
Most of these people aren't even trans. Most of these people are allies, right? So
And
this is
again,
I'm very skeptical of the term ally.
Yeah, I'm really. People who have been traditionally marginalized now have this giant like voice that they didn't have before. I've seen this study. It was the methodology should be criticized.
That voice is clear? I mean, like, trans people do not speak as a group, right?
No,
Tons of
they
trans
don't.
people came to Mythcon, right? If you look at trans represented in the population and at Mythcon, we were way overrepresented. And I talked to tons of trans people that said the activists don't speak for me. Where is their voice?
There. They just told you.
Huh?
They just told you.
So
Hold on. Are you familiar with the walkaway LGBT movement? Are you familiar with the walkaway LGBT movement?
Yes.
Or the what the Blacksit?
Straka, I believe.
Yeah. That he's a grifting piece of shit. It is actually super easy to get a voice if you are a minority group who speaks out against your minority group. Super easy to get a voice.
Last conference in Chicago. Tell me what happened to.
I actually don't know.
Deplatformed.
Oh, cool.
It's okay. You just contradicted yourself. You're saying, oh, it's so easy. Oh, deplatform, cool. Like, come on. Like,
he has this voice. He has this platform. What is he trying to do with it?
He's trying to say what he believes.
What is it? What does he believe?
Right or is wrong, but I think he should speak, and I think that he should talk to people like you and have conversations like we're doing.
I've actually done that before. I talked to one of the organizers, one of the key speakers of that event.
Good for you, and that's why we're talking. I don't harbor any ill will from you, and I don't actually in any of these acts. I hope you don't think this way. I'm not saying that they're you, right? I don't believe that you are being disingenuous.
But you seem to take a big issue with people using their voice and like then other people acting upon it. Like, okay, the LGBT Town Hall that got shut down. I'm not sure if we're talking about the same one. I thought the one I'm thinking of is in New York. I might be wrong. LGBT Town Hall walk away shut down.
It was in Chicago. Ultimately, what they had to do was get they got bailed out at the last moment where they had to have their conference at a government city institution because they have to honor First Amendment rights there, whereas private companies don't have to do it. So what's happening is, like, if you're at all controversial, which means you're even like a feather to the right, no one wants to
feather to the right, really.
What happened? You know what happened to Minds IRL?
What happened?
We got deplatformed, right? So we had to spend an enormous amount of effort and money to bring it up. So we got deplatformed 12 days to our event through lying activists, right? Lying activists that said pedophiles and all this crazy shit.
Who did you have at your? Who were the key speakers at Minds IRL?
Huh?
Hold on, I'm looking it up. Who were the key speakers at Minds IRL?
They're either way.
Who were the key speakers?
Right?
Yeah, who were the key speakers?
Like speakers.
Huh?
Sargon's one of them, right?
Sargon's one of them, yeah.
No, but they called Melissa Chen a fascist.
Yo, she's fascist. She's very close to it, yeah. Like, she talks a lot about degeneracy. I think you're being dishonest if you don't see how she's kind of close.
I've never seen Melissa Chen. You're talking about Lauren Chen. I'm talking about Melissa Chen.
Okay, hold on. Melissa Chen.
Melissa Chen's in an organization called Ideas Without Borders. You're talking about Lauren Chen. Lauren Chen, I don't like the word degeneracy. I agree. I don't like that word. I think
I could be thinking of Lauren Chen. I'm sorry.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are, because she does use that word. I don't think she's fascist, but either way, the point is, like, don't deplatform people. Like, you have people on the right, you're feeling like they're under threat, and what we had to do is we got deplatformed from that thing, right? So we had to spend an enormous amount of time and money to find a new venue. We finally found a new venue at a casino. But guess what we did? Did we announce that and say, guess what, everybody? We've got a new venue at a casino. No, we couldn't. What we were forced to do was tell all of our customers that bought tickets and probably flights, because there were people coming all over the country, that you're going to have to believe us that we got a venue. We can't tell you where it is because the activists are going to swarm that venue and try to get a platform. We're going to have to let you know at 8 a.m., even though the doors open at 10:30. And you don't think this is harassment? You don't think that that we dare to put a conservative view up there, that this isn't harassed? Are you kidding me? Like, this is the new gay in this time, right? Dare to say that you're conservative. It's like saying you were gay in Kentucky in 1989.
No. That is an extraordinarily disingenuous comparison.
Fine. Maybe that isn't the right one, but it is risky. Let's put it that way. It's certainly more risky than coming out gay
Oh,
right
man,
now.
you want to know who's really oppressed? Racists. If you are a white person and you call black people degenerates and say the N-word a bunch,
Have I said
man,
that?
no, I'm
Have I
saying
said
like,
that?
I'm
I get
saying,
called a fascist all the time. I've never once said that.
I'm
Is
saying,
it okay? So it's okay to call fascists, but is it okay to, call me a fascist?
I don't think
Is it
so. No.
right? Okay,
But,
but yet I
hold
get
on.
called it.
Okay, I'm looking for it. Who were the speakers at Minds IRL?
So you have Sargon of Akkad, Lauren Chen was there, Melissa Chen. We had people on the left too: Graham Elwood, Music Man Mike, Tara Devlin, and
Aiden
Jeff
Paladin?
from the Young Turks.
Aiden Paladin's
What?
a fascist.
Aiden Paladin was there.
Aiden Paladin is straight up like asked about the Jewish question. Holy shit.
Okay. I've looked into that. I could not. I did not determine her views to be fascist. And plus, we were talking about she was on a panel talking about
how to admit when you're wrong. Oh man, I remember this. I remember making fun of this a lot.
Andy No was there, right? Like,
yeah,
people hate him.
Yes, and they kind of should. He's a fascist apologist who.
Right, and then our headliner was a guy named Daryl Davis, who's famous as a blues musician, but also for converting 200 members of the KKK.
Yeah, you had some good ones in there.
The ropes.
And I know that some activists came in there.
Right, and you know what Antifa called him when the Antifa people protested us?
Probably something
they called him
terrible.
white supremacist.
Yeah.
So is in your opinion, is Daryl Davis a white supremacist?
Of course not. No.
Okay, well you're a white supremacist according to those Antifa activists.
Okay, I'm not. No, that's
so.
Nonsense.
Well, I'm just saying. Okay, so there's activists the Antifa activists that protested us think we're
you platformed white supremacists. Lauren Chen's up there. Aiden Paladin's up there.
Lauren Chen is half white. She's half Asian.
Are you playing the identity politics with me now?
I'm just saying. Like,
hold on. Did you no? Whoa. Let's go back to that right there. Did you just play the identity politics game that she can't hold these beliefs? Hold on. Did you just? I want to make sure what you just said. Did you just say she can't be a white supremacist because she's only half white?
I'm just saying it's an irony.
She could be.
She could be. She could be disabused of that. She could believe that she's white.
Do you think Milo Yiannopoulos is homophobic?
I could believe that I'm Aztec.
Hold on.
Doesn't make it true.
Hold on. Do you believe that Milo Yiannopoulos is homophobic? Or at least he was? Dude was against gay marriage, vocally. He said that gay people. He said, "Oh no." Answer the question. Do you think he was homophobic?
I don't think he's homophobic.
He said he wouldn't hire gay people. That he thinks gay people are degenerate and they're lazy, and he's against gay marriage.
Okay, that doesn't make any sense. Well, then that just doesn't.
It makes a lot of sense. He did make a lot of money, and it was good to deplatform him.
So basically, he was just saying shit to make money. So
yes.
I just say gobbledygook, and it makes money.
Yes, it poisons discourse.
That, or am I just forming like a monkey?
Does it matter?
What?
Does it matter?
Yeah, it matters.
No, does it matter whether or not you believe what you say?
So
the effect is what matters, correct?
When he's up doing his show, he's going to get paid to make
please
people
talk.
laugh.
Okay. Do you think? Okay, we could talk about comedy. That's something I know a lot about. But let's stay on this topic right here. Okay. Does it matter if you mean what you say or not? Does it matter if you're a grifter? If people believe you?
The term grifter is like pretty new. I mean,
it was what you were just describing.
Who's grifting and who's not?
It was what you were just describing. You don't actually mean the things you say. You're doing it for attention and money.
Okay, yeah, then that would be something that I don't say it's grifting. I just say it's acting, playing a role, being fake. I like being fake better, but whatever.
Okay, we can call it being fake. But does it matter if you're being fake or not? You're still... People pointed to Milo Yiannopoulos, so see, I can't be homophobic. I like this gay guy. Ooh, okay. I can't be racist. I love Jesse Lee Peterson.
All right, and you're free to say, it's all an act. You realize that?
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. You're still saying the things that are popular. And you said it yourself, we can't know for sure.
You got one crazy weirdo out there saying weird shit. So we should deplatform him because we're afraid that
I think you should responsibly platform people.
Follow him?
I think you should responsibly platform people. Changing Minds, How to Admit You're Wrong, hosted by Romy Millennial, who Lauren Chen is a almost, she's real close to fascist. And the panelists
Like
include
how? Like tell me, like I don't.
Lauren
How
Shin.
is she bad?
Lauren Shin, she uses the word degeneracy a bunch.
Okay, I don't like that word. Okay, fine, and
Oh no,
that's
she used it
you
in
shouldn't use the word.
response to.
But
She does it just enough to avoid terms of service. Hold on, Lauren. Okay, I'll look it up later.
so she does so, but okay, but so I don't like the particular word she chooses. I might not like her hair. Who gives a shit what I think? Like, she's allowed to use that word if she wants.
Yes, she is, and we're allowed to make judgments on her.
I know, but you're making a judgment on a word, right? Come on.
It's not a
Like,
word.
let's
It's
talk about what
way
her
more than
ideas are
that.
that are
Hold on.
fascist.
Let's talk about it. She's super anti-immigration. She's really anti-trans.
Okay, and but
Hey, hold on.
anti-immigration. I mean, like, so Barack Obama's stance. If I could play you Barack Obama's stuff from 2008, are you kidding me? You couldn't say that. You'd get owned by the woke crowd.
Oh, it's so get owned.
Barack Obama is now, I guess, a right winger. Like, this is weird. I mean, you got to tell me that you have to at least admit the Overton window is shifted like three slots to the left. I mean, can we agree on that?
Trump is president, dog.
Okay.
40% of the country support him no matter what. And you're going to tell me that the Overton window shifted to the left?
Yeah, Trump won on the thinnest of margins. Like,
does that matter? He still has 40% support no matter what he does.
Yeah.
He can lie as much as he wants to. He can say he can play grievance politics all the livelong day. He can make racist remark after sexist remark after fucking shitty trans
and guess what? We have
remarks.
to live like right. I'm not one of those people that is like the, what do they call them? The Trump God Emperor types, right? The Trump can do no wrong and go to Trump rallies.
And I feel like you're in the Tim Pool mindset that makes you like on the left. That like just not liking Trump is enough. That should be your get out of jail free card.
Oh my God! Tell that to Sophane. Tell that to all these people that. Oh my God!
I was criticizing you just now.
Alt-right or alt-right.
No, I was criticizing you just now.
Thank you for calling me on the left. It's the first time that's happened
no,
in a long time.
No, I feel like you think that maybe I didn't phrase it correctly. No, I'm saying I feel like you think that you should get credit for not liking Trump. That's somehow like a point in your favor, when in reality, liking Trump is just a point against you.
People should get credit for everything that they do right. Everything.
Everything that they do right.
Yes.
You didn't do something right. You just didn't do something wrong.
Look, if you took out the neighbor's trash because like she had a broken ankle,
that's not what we're talking about.
For that.
No.
Now, even if you're alcoholic, you get credit for that, right? Like you don't get credit for what you do right.
Do I get credit for not like setting my neighbor's house on fire?
Yes.
I get credit for oh shit! I can make up so many things I deserve credit for.
You get a tiny bit, yes, because not being violent is part of living in a civilized society.
Okay, man, don't trip over that low bar.
I'm just saying, it's a cumulative stuff. That's my philosophy. I give people credit, like because honestly, what this helps my social cohesion. So let's say I don't agree with you on anything. Actually, we have points of agreement, right? Okay. How do I not hate you? Well, you're not killing anyone. Look at all these minimum bars that you are meeting. Like, I can be like, okay, this is a point of commonality. I can because I'm giving you small amounts of credit for all the little things, the little bars that you're meeting, at least in my opinion, right? And vice versa. That's how we can live together in a pluralistic society, is when you give credit for everything. And it's none of this like, oh, well, you didn't steal, so, well, that's just standard. No, nothing is just standard. You could have a society that's rife with murder and rife with all kinds of things. Like, so people get credit for not being, like, they get credit for that. Like, and you get dinged if you're a homophobic bigot.
In some places, yeah.
I mean, at least that's the way it ought to be. But in my philosophy, you get credit for even like the bullshit that you didn't do. Like, come on. I mean, it's one way of being able to live together. Otherwise, we're going to tribalize. I don't want that. And I think what Ben is, and part of the other stuff that in this is he's talking about society. He's like, if they keep doing this, and he's like, if the Democrats keep doing it, he's getting really mean, or he's not getting mean, he's getting really fired up. The Democrats do this, I'm telling you, it's gonna rip society apart. If they tear at the bonds of what society together, it will. Right? That's his argument.
Allowing
Now,
black kids to go to white schools did the same thing. That was the argument at the time. You're making the same argument. You have to be nice to the racists in 1965 so you don't upset them too quickly.
No, you have to. No, the difference was you could pull your kid, even at that time, right? And I'm not saying that raising was good, but you could pull your kid out of Bob Jones if you didn't like it.
And there's been he created this hypothetical, right?
Yeah,
why are you giving it legitimacy?
They're literally not letting you. He's creating something.
He's created a hypothetical where he's right. Dog, I live in reality.
We can't get to the Soviet Union because you can. The Soviet Union got there. And so many other places did too.
You got it, man. Let's take Beto O'Rourke's hypothetical that he made. Let's take another hypothetical from that. Let's take that hypothetical that he made up from the hypothetical, pull it about 30 degrees to the right and pretend that it's happening, and now let's pretend that's real, and then I get to shoot you in the face. Do you not see how that's extraordinarily disingenuous?
That's basically Kathy Griffin's Twitter. You described that is the opposite, right? Kathy Griffin's the same way, except for the opposite.
Why are you whataboutisming here?
What I'm saying is, if we're going to condemn Ben, that if you're going to set a standard, I'm fine to, but are we ready to condemn all these other people that standard will collect? Because if we're not, then it's a dumb standard.
Oh my God!
And we need to find a standard that works for us.
Let's find the standard that. Okay, let's set the standard. Let's set my standard and see if it who meets it on the left. Okay, if you take hey, I think you should not discriminate against X group, and then Ben goes, well, if I can't discriminate against X group, that will lead to a scenario where you don't get to raise my kids, and if you try to take them away, I'll shoot you with a gun.
All right, and now. Add to that. Oh, religious, this other person is also saying 11 different times in their podcast that religious people are, evil. They're full of shit. That teaching religion to their kids is child abuse. We stop this. Does that change the metrics at all? Is that person raising the temperature? Is that stochastic terrorism in any way?
Hold on. Let's take the same standard. Let's say that
they're literally saying the same activists are proposing this. Like, do you trust the activist Ben Shapiro?
Let's say Let's actually make it a comparable argument. So this atheist says, if I cannot discriminate against religious people, and if you try to put your religion and come into my house and indoctrinate my kids, I will meet you at the door with a gun. Yes, that will be just as ridiculous. And we should be calling them out the same.
To me, that's what's wrong with it. Like, if this guy does not want his kids indoctrinated in religion, and the society says
it's the leap in logic that he took to say that, hey, you can't discriminate against religious people, and then to go immediately from that with no intermediary step.
We don't have to imagine that. That society exists in the past. In the past. You couldn't go to a school that didn't have some sort of religious indoctrination. You would have had to home.
Yeah, I'm giving you an example.
It's always been an option.
Yeah, I'm giving you an example that would be more favorable to my side, and I'm still saying that would be stochastic terrorism. I'm giving an example that would be more favorable to my side and still agreeing with it.
Well, then Madeline Murray O'Hare meets the American atheists now meet the description.
Why? Or do they think? Hold on. Do they think that you should be able to discriminate against religious people?
No, I'm saying that the founder, Madeline Murray O'Hare. So shouldn't we just shit can the organization because it was founded on a stochastic terrorist?
Jesus Christ, dude.
Right? I don't know. In some ways,
the standards are so much different for gay people and religious people. Religious people are being discriminated against if they can't discriminate, and gay people are being discriminated against by not being able to work in certain places.
People are discriminated against by other religious people?
Hold on. On a legal level?
Separation of church and state.
Dog, is it legal on a federal level to discriminate against people based on their religion? No. The answer to that is no. You cannot discriminate against people.
There's federal laws and state laws.
Yes, of course, everywhere. You cannot discriminate against people based on their religion. Is that good or bad? I think we can agree that that's good, right?
It's totally good, yeah.
Okay, there's no federal protections for LGBT people.
What do you mean? What federal protections do you want?
I'm saying in most states, you can still
what are these protections? Like what protections?
The exact same thing I just said for religious people. Employment, housing, things like that. You can't discriminate against someone based on their religion. There's no such protections for LGBT people.
I support a law in hiring that said, right, I'm not going to hire this guy because he's gay, or I'm not going to hire this woman because she's gay.
And you would support that law. Okay, Ben Shapiro says that if you try to indoctrinate his kids, he gets to meet you at the door with a gun.
Yeah, but that's different.
It is way different.
Passing a law doesn't mean, again, what he's talking about is Ben Shapiro's not for that kind of discrimination either. He doesn't want that. He's with us on the job hire discrimination thing. He's not with us on is gay a sin. He thinks being gay,
all right,
the homosexual act is. I don't think so.
Look at how much charity you're giving Ben Shapiro, who is an activist pushing for a far-right agenda, and say that
it's not far right.
It's pretty far right.
Average. It's conservative.
Average conservative.
If 0 is the middle, 100 is the farthest right, -100 is the farthest left. Ben is a 50.
A 50. You think he's like a standard conservative?
Plus 50, yeah. Because there are definitely people to the right of Ben, and he's getting picked on for it. Okay. There are plenty of the Trumpian types, because he rips on Trump plenty, and there's plenty
can we at least? He's a militant activist, though. Can we say that at least? He's a militant activist.
Say he's an activist, he's a political commentator. Like, he's commenting on what gives him. Activists have a specific cause. He might be an activist for social conservatism. I'll give you that. But otherwise, his job is a social conservative activist, though. That you could make that claim.
Yes, and look at the charity that you're giving him.
But
that you don't seem to give to people. You don't seem to give that charity to the SJWs who are crazy.
Yeah, I would absolutely. There's Skepticon, right? Is a conference that we used to compete with, in our world, right? That all they do is social justice issues. Great. That's great that there's a con for people that want to go to. Have at it. I hope it does well. Like, we want to do something different. But that's why there's multiple cons, and then people can go to the ones they want. Like, I have no problem with them being active. I just don't want them deplatforming my con. Like, if their con's bigger than mine, then maybe I'll be like, wow, there's a lot of people into that. But if they deplatform me, I'm going to think that they're authoritarians. You know, and Skepticon didn't do this to us, but there were people that did. And the people that tried to deplatform, I think, are authoritarians, and I don't trust them at all.
Okay. Any last points you wanted to bring up? Anything you wanted to ask me?
But I don't think you are an authoritarian at all. I think you're actually trying to get the truth. And there is legit stuff to the social justice stuff. I'm defending. I'm not agreeing with Ben Shapiro. I think that, say, here's Ben Shapiro on the right. I'm somewhere to the left of him. You're to the left of me. But I'm saying we all have to live in the same space. Like,
and he doesn't want to live in the same space as me. In fact, he wants to be able to keep me out of his space.
That's not true.
He wants to be able to. Hold on. Tell me how that's not true. He wants schools to be able to keep gay people out of the schools.
No, he doesn't.
Holy shit! Do you not think that?
Schools. Private schools, he wants, and he didn't say that gay people can't go. He said that they're going to teach that the homosexual act is something I don't agree with, something I was taught, by the way. But, it didn't make me a bigot.
He also wants to make sure that churches can, like religious schools can fire gay teachers. He absolutely wants that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
I will bet you money.
Maybe I've never say that. Like, I haven't seen that.
Do you honestly think that with the reaction he has of religious institutions losing their tax exempt status, that that he's not applying that to being able to discriminate against gay people?
No, I think he's legit on. I think that I think that Ben is legit on this. I think that you're right in that there's some people that say that shit that aren't. Just like I'm right in that some activists are awful, and you're like, but you've met activists that are great. That's true too. I just don't think that Ben is one of the awful.
I think he's extraordinarily awful. No, he's awful. He lies out his teeth when it comes to any kind of social justice issue. If you've ever heard him say anything about trans people, he's lying. Especially anything about...
Again, with the trans stuff, that's another place where I'll disagree with Ben Shapiro. He's not...
He's a bad faith actor. He's not. Every description of every study So is he dumb or lying
of course
about
he's going to
those?
screw up trans. He's screwing up gay.
No,
right?
is he dumb or lying? Do you
Huh?
think? Is he dumb or lying about trans
No, he believes
studies?
He believes it. I'm going to give him
So
the
he's
charity
lying.
to think that he believes it. What? I mean,
So he's just
like I
dumb?
give you
Wait,
the
so he's dumb,
charity-
right?
Huh?
So he's dumb.
He believes that his philosophy is the best philosophy.
No, I'm saying that when
And
he quotes studies, I'm not talking about philosophy. I'm sorry, when he quotes studies, he quotes them inaccurately and lies about them.
Okay, I guess you'd have to bring up the specific one to.
Okay, I don't want to get too far off topic, but
Okay, but all right, but the thing is, he's basically saying that his religion is just philosophy, right? And like, you could have whatever's your philosophy, but his philosophy's got some weird wrinkles, right? And most of the things we don't object to. If he wants to spend all his time following 617 laws, have at it, right?
he wants his identity to be rewarded, while other identities he wants to be punished.
But most of the people, though, like if you are straight, right, you don't have a straight identity. Like you don't really identify. You're just kind of like if you're white, you generally don't have a white identity. Like like now if generally American blacks, like black people in America generally do have a racial identity. But that was foisted upon them, and it makes sense why they would. But like you just don't see it with white people, and I just so.
I'm aware that I'm white. Identify
but
as
do you
white.
identify with it? Is it meaningful to you?
No.
Yeah. So
because it was never made an issue. Yeah.
Is being gay meaningful to you?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So that makes sense. That makes sense that you would identify with that. But it's like but you might identify with things like father, or you're a career, or your activism, or a YouTuber, or whatever like that. Those are the things you're going to identify with.
So, hold on. Let's get back to Ben Shapiro's comments. He thinks that his ideology and his identification, like as a religion, because that is an identity, is a religion, something you choose. We can agree on that. Can we at least agree on that? That religion is an identity that you choose.
Yeah. Well, like it's
to a certain
degree,
right?
Right, because you feel it and it's important to you, so it's an identity. And obviously, like you're born into it, so
he wants those to be rewarded.
You chose it to a degree.
Yeah,
right?
No, I can agree with that. Yeah, if you're born into a really religious environment, you're much more likely to be religious.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because
nobody's just like picking, right? Why is all of India mostly Hindu?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But in a largely secular society, it is at least to a certain extent a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And at the very least, it's one that you can't prove like biologically.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Right.
Yeah. So he wants his identity privileged. He thinks that it should get rewards like tax-exempt status, whereas he wants other identities it should be legal to discriminate against them.
Well, but is he calling that LGBT organizations lose their tax status, or churches that support LGBT rights, of which there's many?
Tell you what, no, hold on. Tell you what, if any LGBT organization advocates for the removal of rights of religious people, then I'm for that. But you do not have a right to discriminate against people on a legal level.
In hiring, yes, but again,
hiring, employment, housing.
What about marrying? Right? Like, do you think that Ben Shapiro, like it's an Orthodox Jew thing? Do you think he has to do that? Are you going to tell the conservative Muslims in America, like, what are you going to tell them? I'm going to tell them,
hey, conservative.
Are you going to tell them that they have to perform
conservative Muslims, if you do not perform marriages for homosexual couples, you will lose your tax-exempt status. You can still discriminate. You don't have to do it.
No,
you're just not going to get rewarded for not doing it.
So then 10 years from now, let's say we pass. Then 10 years from now, a new group of activists say, well, let's not reward them in any way. Okay, we took their tax exempt, so no. If you won't perform gay marriages, if you don't do this, then you can't use. Why isn't that a logical
I'm sorry, you cut
next
out.
step?
You cut out. Repeat your last thing. I'm sorry.
Okay, so let's assume that we did losing tax exempt status is something that could happen, right? And let's say it did. Then 10 years from now, okay, well, it didn't seem to change the bigotry much. There's still plenty of homophobes out there. So what we really need to do is make sure that they can't access the roads. So unless Jews, Christian churches, Muslim mosques, if they're not getting married gay people, then we're going to say they can't use the Are we going to go there? Because this is a bad idea.
Okay, we can go.
I'm
How
with
about we
you.
go the other direction too? Let's say if you can discriminate against gay people, why not? Can you think of any reason where you should be forced to serve black people? We can go slippery slope in the other direction too. That's why I don't like it. It's boring. Like, I need to see a logical train of thought. I need to see, like, this proposal is happening right now. Let's talk about it now. Let's not talk about what it might lead to.
Why not? I mean, but okay, fine. But okay, so when Trump proposed a 6-state Muslim ban, and people didn't talk about what this might lead to, are you kidding me? Oh,
because
no,
that's bad in and of itself. Holy shit. Like, we could talk about that policy.
You're saying that we only have to talk about that we couldn't possibly say, wow, that seems pretty unhinged. What's he going to do next?
That's a reasonable conversation to be had. But we can criticize that policy right there.
Yeah.
We don't have to criticize it.
Why do we have to deny our humanity to think, oh my God, what's around the next corner?
All right.
Right? That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's good. Look, you're actually being more like true to the argument there. I'm actually invoking like more the emotional thing of just like, look, I get people and like I don't want to rile them up unnecessarily. Like I don't mind
riling people up who are homophobes. I don't mind that.
Really?
That's worth it to me.
Well, but what happens to the intersectionality thing? Muslims are a part of that group.
Yes.
And there are a lot of conservative homophobes. What are we going to do? Are they a protected class? Are they bigots?
If they discriminate against gay people, no, they're not protected.
So protected classes can lose their protected class.
No. Hold on. Do you think that being a protected class, what do you think that means?
I don't know. Actually, that's a good question.
Like, I can't discriminate against Muslims, right? And they can't discriminate against me. That's equal. That's a good thing. All right, so I can't, as a gay person, say, no, I'm not going to let you into my place of business. I'm not going to let you into this gay bar because you're Muslim. We cannot do that. And that's good. That's good that we can't do that. And they can't do the same thing either. That's good.
Okay.
That's what that means. So what were you on about when you said that?
So, like, but I was just saying that we all have, like, I think that, okay, the point is, you're saying, like, bigotry is bad, right? Obviously, we agree on that. The question is it better to get, like, 98% of the bigotry out and then just kind of, like, the other 2% will draw the line at hiring, a lot of the other things, right? There's no discrimination, hiring, this and that. But as far as, like, making a cake and a few other things, that we'll just let those go to keep the peace rather than push it to 100% to cleanse it, because I honestly just don't think that solution is going to be better. I think what that's going to do is raise the temperature, and a certain amount of those people are going to pop off, and then we're going to get shooters. Like, it's not going to be good. Like, I think that these are the compromises. Sometimes people like Joe Biden had to make compromises. Segregationists, right? I mean, we're just talking about like all these people were segregationists. Right? This is crazy. But you had to make compromises with those people at that time.
And I'm making compromises. I'm saying, hey, your First Amendment rights, you can be as homophobic as you want in your personal life. You can say whatever you want on, in the ether if you want to. Mm-hmm. Companies don't have to host you, though, if they don't want to, unless you want to force them to. You don't have to.
But can they host the company? Okay, that's another good. So, okay, let's say Facebook and Twitter want to get rid of Ben Shapiro, right?
Yep.
So then Ben's like, okay, we can't have social. So he creates this website. Then GoDaddy came, right? So then he hosts a site somewhere in Indonesia, and then takes PayPal contributors. Now PayPal cut and all this stuff. Like, at what point do you just keep cutting people off? Like, this is crazy. At some point we have to say.
I guess when capitalism's over, right?
Huh?
I guess when capitalism is over, then that won't happen anymore.
So, but is that the biggest thing? Like, that a major theme on the right is that all of this isn't actually about LGBT. It's not about all of the things that we're talking about, right? All of the different discriminations and so on and so forth. That it's actually just a ruse to create noise to bring down capitalism, and therefore is disingenuous at its heart.
I'm sorry. Do you think that Facebook is censoring people in order to bring down capitalism?
No. The
Uh,
activists don't give a damn. That there's a ton of activists that are into social justice. And they don't care about black people, they don't care about gay people, they don't care about Muslims, they don't care about any of this. The real aim is just to bring down capitalism.
oh, is that? Are we allowed to do that now?
Does that resonate with you?
No,
Do
not even a
you?
little bit.
Okay.
No,
So
they're yes, they want to bring down capitalism. People on the left, absolutely, yes, but they don't actually care about black people and gay people and stuff like that. No, that doesn't resonate.
okay, but could you care? Could you be an activist in an LGBT organization and care more about bringing down capitalism than LGBT rights?
You could, yes, but you could still care about
Right.
both of them immensely.
Right. But you can see where some of the skeptics, right, like the Green New Deal, for example, like that it was when they asked Chakrabarty or whomever wrote it what this was about, like, and he's like, well, we thought this was less about climate change to us and more about changing the system. Like it was more anti-capitalist than it was environmentalist. And so you get this deep cynicism that creates stuff like that creates deep cynicism on the right. And they don't believe anything that's coming out of the activist's mouth, right? Because they're like, they're all lying. So
So much of your speech today. I know I'm on the left, and I know you're tailoring it to me, but it's about appeasing the right and not upsetting them too much. Do you?
but I want to do the same thing for the left. Like, this is why I would absolutely fiercely oppose like the deportation of all illegal immigrants. This would be a terrible idea.
What would you, if you were talking
Absolute
to Ben Shapiro right
idea.
now? What would you tell him to do to avoid like, I guess pissing me off or exciting me?
Well, he doesn't need to not do like you can like cite and like I generally. Oh, you mean in general, right? I mean,
Yeah.
not you're not talking about legally. You mean just like legally and legally?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. Um, that things. Let's see. That's a good question. I'd be like, and Ben actually does a good job. He doesn't like use homophobic slurs. He doesn't
oh,
do anything like that.
okay. Again, that is a low bar. He says that homosexuality is
But hey,
morally
are there
inferior
still
to
people that do it? Are
heterosexuality.
there people that use homophobic slurs?
Yeah, I'm not concerned. Okay, a slur I can deal with. The
See, this
insinuation
is
that my
again
marriage
my
is.
philosophy is you get credit. You get credit for even the little things because this is what binds us, man. Like, what if we have nothing in common? These are the basic things that are going to bind us
Okay,
and like make us live together, not hate each other. We need that.
hold on. As long as I'm not called a slur, it's okay to be homophobic.
No, it's not what he said. What I'm saying is like Ben does get credit for not using it. You can't say that he goes around using slurs. He doesn't.
No, but he still goes around spreading homophobic rhetoric.
Okay, like what?
S-
Like the gay sex is a sin? Like
no, they
this
gay
actually?
that's homosexuality is morally inferior to heterosexuality. That it goes against
It's a
natural
sin.
law.
Yeah, right.
No,
Natural law.
he even tries to justify it outside of religion. This is why I don't understand
Yeah,
why
he
people
does. He
think he's
does.
smart.
Yeah,
He says it goes outside of.
that's a weird case. Yeah,
Yeah.
that that one's it's a little weird because you're right. Like you either because once you try to justify the natural law, you may actually see your religious argument to do it. That's actually interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I agree that he needs to kind of like decide a little bit where he's going to go there. I don't like making the natural law. I don't like the natural law argument. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Like the religious argument doesn't make sense to me, but I can at least get where they're coming from. And I think the best thing on activism is to just talk them out of that. And like you talk to people on the other side. I think you'd be very good at it.
Yeah.
You've
Often
done
do.
it. I'm sure you've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's the best thing to do. I just think that if we're going to talk about bigots and stuff, we should talk to them and get them to not be bigots as opposed to shove things down their throats. I just think that's a better policy.
I don't. I'm still stuck. Okay. All right. So let's end here in about 10 minutes. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's cool.
Start wrapping things up here.
What does
it
fun.
mean?
We've been talking forever.
Yeah. What does it mean to shove something? What does it mean to shove it down their throat?
It's a loose definition. I don't really have one. I think on that. I don't know. It's sort of. I think it's it kind of thing. But I think at some point, not letting people opt out. I think is one.
Not letting people opt out. So like,
Opt out.
can you think
Opt
of an
out of
example of
some
that happening?
course or whatever. You have to eat it. Like if somebody was saying, "You have to eat this communion, or I'm going to put you in jail." That's shoving it down your throat?
Can you think of an
That's
example of that
shoving
happening?
Catholicism down your throat. If I say, you either eat this communion wafer and say amen, or I'm putting you in jail. That's shoving it down your throat.
Can you think of an example of that like the left forcing that, of shoving something down someone's throat?
The left doesn't like to shove religion down people's throats.
No, just
They
anything.
don't do that.
Anything. Huh? Anything.
Well, the Spanish Inquisition did that, so I mean, there's examples.
No, I was talking like modern day left. Can you think of like the left shoving something down the society's throat?
Like you could say, like Bill C-16 does that when you criminalize Islamophobia, but not all religions. When you somehow separate that out and make it special, that's weird. It also, yeah, that when you do this and you create a legal thing in Britain, they're definitely doing it.
Oh, let's go back to let's go back to Bill C-16. Like Bill C-16 just added gender identity under the protections that everything else was under, right?
Yeah, but the way it was written fundamentally undermined the things that were protecting gay rights.
No, it didn't.
Because they said that it's completely identity, that it has nothing to do with biology.
Yeah, so, and
identity only.
And there's precedent for that. Religion. Remember? Religion's not biological, it's identity. So we already have precedent for that.
Because we both conceded that you raise kids, like you're raised that way, like, you know, you got a lot higher percentage chance of staying a Christian if you're raised a Christian.
Yes, but also if you're, if you are trans as a kid, you're probably likely to be trans as an adult too. I'm not sure how this like invalidates gender identity.
I'm not saying it validates gender identity. I think gender identity is a bad standard to look at. I don't think gender identity should be a meaningful legal standard because there's no way to test for it.
Well, you don't have to do anything to them. You don't have to call them by certain pronouns. There's no compelled speech. You just can't discriminate against them.
You could you could compel speech.
No, you can't. Use their name. Or don't call them anything at all. Or don't talk to them at all.
Well, like you would if they made a thing of you have to use the pronoun of people's choices, like that would be, and you had some sort of something legal backing it up. That's speech.
Yeah, they wouldn't criminalize accidental misgendering though.
Right, I know that, but like let's say you just didn't want to do it. No, I'm not going to say that. Let's say everybody's had to, say Batman in the everyone. That was a law. I don't want to say it. I'm not going to say it. I'm just weird. I'm not. I don't have to say it. Like that's.
You think that's a fair comparison?
I would say compelled speech isn't a good idea. Like,
and there's no compelled speech in C-16, so we're on the same page.
No, I mean if you can find people for not choosing to do it, like that is a form of compelled speech. I'm not saying that it's a good idea to like not use the pronouns of people's choice. I'm just saying it is compelled speech.
It's not compelled speech. You don't have to do anything. You just can't like harass someone. That's all that means. Like you're never like if Bill C-16 has been out for a few years now.
What you're saying is like, okay, the way the law is written and could be interpreted that way, right? No, but you're basically saying, but in practice, no one's going to get arrested for that, right?
No one has been arrested. Actually, you know what? That's not true. Someone has been arrested for it. You know why?
Who?
Sure, I forgot his name. It was a really weird name. But there's only been like one case. Okay. But he distributed like 1,500 flyers intentionally misgendering this candidate, like in a harassing way, like saying that she wasn't really a woman, that he demanded to see pictures of her when she used to be like it was clear-cut harassment. And Bill 16,
it's obnoxious, right? It's
right,
obnoxious.
And he was fined $50,000 for doing something that took a lot of effort, that was pretty heinous discrimination.
But don't you think how did he get fined specifically for misgendering?
No, for the blatant over the top harassment.
Yes. No, I'm fine with that. That's over the top harassment.
Yeah,
I'd much rather go after somebody like that for harassment than I would misgendering.
Yeah, so C-16 did its job. It wasn't misgendering. It was like intentional, like targeted harassment.
Then I have no objection to it, and I
Yeah.
don't even think it's the compelled speech thing.
Yeah. So that's
But
C16 doing
if
its
they
job.
did, if it does, like if they would do it specifically for gendering, I just I don't like the concept of it. And again, the slippery slope thing, it's not always a right. It can sometimes be a fallacy. It depends on a whole host of things.
Well, good thing
And
the
again, I'm not here to defend Ben Shapiro. I'm just saying I can get in the mind of conservatives and see what raises the hackle. Like, and I can also get into the mind of the left and see what raises their hackles. And I think that both people need to calm the F down, to be honest.
okay.
Really, I do.
I care
So,
about
and has Ben an offender on that? Yes. Yes, he is. He is. But
every
there's a lot
single
of
thing.
offenders and a lot of.
I want to say since it was about our topic, and we were actually gonna watch the whole thing, but I'm glad we
I know.
just had a conversation instead.
It was more fun. I feel like I got to know you and your positions better.
Oh yeah. Again, I'm not a big fan of Ben Shapiro. I feel like he mischaracterizes people a lot. I think he's one of the worst offenders of this, and you can think
Like who's
differently. And
like
that's
okay.
fine.
So we'll end on this. Like what if you were going to listen to somebody on the right? Who do you find the most honest if you wanted to get like a kind of a fair right wing opinion?
I'm not sure.
You see, I think that's the question you got to ask. It's like, is there anyone on the right that would fit the bill?
I'm terrible with names. I'll read my right wing websites. Quite a few out. Excuse me.
You know, like even me. Like I mean, like if I'm on the right, like am I a good voice? I don't claim to be, but what I'm saying is like I think it's a good idea to find people on the opposite side that you feel like are the most honest purveyors of it. And if you're in the center, then you're gonna need to do it on both sides.
If it makes you feel
But I
better,
think
I don't really seek out opinions on the left either.
okay.
Yeah, so I don't like hearing news stories framed either way. When I want a
Yeah,
news story, I usually try to look at AP or Reuters or something like that.
sure.
And or if I
Yeah,
do read
I
an
know.
article, I try to cross check it with a bunch of other articles.
No, I really do. I believe that. I think that you care at getting at the truth. I think that you're like you can set biases aside to have an argument.
No,
Like, you've done that the whole time. We've done all kinds of different assumptions, and you've played with them. Yeah, I totally agree. Like you're good at it. But still, it's good to know like the people that aren't. We've got to deal with a lot of people that can't do that, and knowing what they feel is like we're gonna have to give a little bit, and the right is gonna have to give to the SJWs a little bit. They have to, and and vice versa. I didn't just trying to find out where that lands. I think that's what we're really bitching about.
okay. Well, I think that's a good positive note to end on. What do you think?
Yeah, it is. I thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks
I
for
think you're
coming on.
great. You've been incredibly nice the whole time. Even when you're arguing with me and telling me I'm full of shit,
I feel
I
like
like it.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was still managed to be fun.
yeah,
So
it was. And I think I learned it.
yeah, I do genuinely appreciate you coming on, and I hope you have a good rest of your night. Okay.
Yeah, anytime, man.
All
Hey,
right.
thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. We'll do it
All right,
again
take
sometime.
care. All right, thanks, Justin.